Nolan Arenado, St. Louis Cardinals. I think you did like your first interview ever. Like once you got to St. Louis, you were with me in Dallas at some point, like right. So because we got ripped off, you went on with us right after the trade, and you were like, yeah, like I'm not opting out. And then over the offseason, people were like, yeah, Nolan's not opting out, and they're like, oh my God, breaking news. I was like, he told us that 2 years ago. Like, what are we talking about? How has the St. Louis experience been in the years that you've now been there?
It's been great. It's been really great. This year we started off a little slow, but we're starting to turn it on again, hopefully. And but it's been amazing, man. I love St. Louis. I love living there, and I love my teammates, man. It's been a lot of fun.
I mean, can you stop though? Just take today off because the Boston Red Sox are we're trying to figure it out over here. No one believed in us coming into the season, and it was funny. Like we were talking before we went on here about how you guys saw like two of the best starting pitching outings of the entire season. You got to see Sale, who was great. You got to see Paxton, who was great. 9 strikeouts. You homered off both guys.
Well, Paxton was a 2-strike over the plate, and Sale threw the first fastball of the day down in the zone. But like I said, he was living up in the zone all day, and like I said, if I was gonna get a hit off Sale that day, it had to be down, and I was able to hit a mistake. But he was really good. They were both really good.
How hard is it to be humble when you're Nolan Arenado? Like when you're just like, yeah, I got a platinum glove, and I can also like drive in $130, and I can probably hit you 40 bombs. Like when you're that good, how do you keep yourself from believing that you're just like you're walking on water? How do you do that? I wouldn't be able to do that.
Well, if you saw the April that I had, it'd be pretty easy.
That's 1 year.
It's all right.
That's 1 month.
You would probably see why you are. I mean, that's just baseball, man. You can't get too big here. This isn't like other sports. Like I said, all of April I really got dominated, and a little bit of May, but lately I've been hitting the ball better. But like I said, that's why.
Yeah, I mean it's fun to watch you figure it out. I knew that you would at some point. Unfortunately it's been happening a lot in this series. But I want to talk to you about the World Baseball Classic because that experience. I mean, I thought the 2017 one was kind of like the peak with like the Adam Jones catch and like USA winning it all. You being a part of this one, what was it like as a player to kind of go there, share a clubhouse with guys like Mike Trout, and you look around, there's Mookie Betts, like all these other guys. You've been on plenty of all-star teams, but what was different about playing in a game like that with games that matter versus like an all-star team?
Yeah, well, first off, I mean, the hardest thing to do in those situations is come together, right? You only get 2 weeks. You don't really know each other. Sometimes egos can get in the way. But I will say that our team, nobody's ego got in the way. We were all there for one mission, that was to win ball games. And I feel like when we lost to Mexico, it was kind of like a little wake-up call, like, hey, man, nobody's going to take us lightly. Every game was pretty tough, to be quite honest. And then we played really well. The Venezuela game was one of the best experiences of my life as a baseball player. I mean, those fans were rowdy. That team was very good. That was a great win for USA. And then obviously Japan beat us in the finals, but it was such a tough game, and they had great pitching. But just playing with those guys, seeing the routines and seeing how good they are, it was special. And sometimes I think like what I think about when I'm hitting, or what I think about how bad I am all the time, those guys kind of think about the same thing too. They're like, man, I don't feel right. This doesn't feel right. And then I'm like, man, you look so good. And then they say the same thing to me, like, you look so good. I'm like, no, I know, but I don't feel right. So it's just funny how those conversations happen. But, it was fun being around them and learning from them.
So like, that's what I was going to ask next about like learning from them. Like you're a veteran now. We're basically the same age, right?
I'm 32. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We're basically the same age. I feel like that's so weird. Is there anything that you picked up from those guys? Is there anything that you can pick up from other guys, like having played in the league for as long as you have? Is there a way that you can kind of like look at a guy that goes about his work a certain way? Or are you thinking like, I don't want to deviate from the way that I've always done it?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think it's just all those players. I mean, they all have their routines. I was just so fascinated with obviously watching Mike Trout's routine. There's a lot of things that he does that I do in my routine. Same with Mookie. Trey Turner was a lot of fun to watch. He doesn't like taking BP,
which is weird.
Which is weird because he's so good.
Yeah.
And he's like really into like his routine is his routine. Like sometimes you think these guys are gonna go up there and hit bombs and in batting practice, and they're just shooting balls to second base, and you're like, what? No way, that's him. But that's just watching them, the routines and how they stay within themselves is something that I learned that I need to do a better job of as a baseball player, is staying within myself. Sometimes I get a little excited and I want to do a little bit more. Watching those guys like JT Realmuto always stays within himself. I think that's how you become a better baseball player, and I took that from him.
One of the things that I always tell people whenever you come up is that during the COVID season, when we didn't know when the next MLB game was going to be played, you were still practicing and preparing like Game 7 of the World Series was tomorrow. How difficult, if at all, have you found it to kind of keep that competitive edge? Because from like a sports psychology perspective, I think it's fascinating when you've got guys like Chris Sale, who you just faced, like he's just super intense all the time. Like people that are watching this right now, they'll be like, that guy seems pretty tame. Like that guy seems like pretty nice guy, like low level energy, but like when it's game time, like you turn it on. How have you found that you've been able to maintain that?
Yeah, well, I think probably by doing a little bit less, I mean, I think as you get older, there's certain things you can and can't do. I don't lift the same as I did when I was 24. I definitely don't take ground balls the same as I was 24. But as I've gotten older, I'm trying to just make sure I maximize, like when I do it, I make sure I do it right. So I make sure, that's what I end on. When I was younger, I would just keep going because I could just do it. Nowadays, I don't think that's the best thing for me. I'm just trying to make sure I can maintain. But keeping that competitiveness is pretty easy because I still want to be a good baseball player and I still want to perform. So as far as that goes, that's easy. Yeah.
Last year, they are going to make a movie about the way that Albert Pujols went out. I feel like the opening scene would be you being like, yo, where is the farewell tour for Albert? Like, why do all these other guys get this farewell tour? And like, what's going on with Albert? He ends up in St. Louis and we know what he does. He hits the 700 in dramatic fashion. What was that like to have a front row seat to the second half of last season, seeing what Albert did, what he means to the city of St. Louis, and being a fan of his? Like you're a teammate, but you're also a fan and vice versa. Sure. What was that like?
Well, I mean, it was crazy. I mean, there was a point in the first half where Albert, he wasn't happy with how he was playing, and he was down. You could tell he was not happy at all. He was like, I don't know. This is not who I want to be. This is not the player I am. And then all of a sudden it started clicking. And then in the second half, me and Goldie played really well in the second half, but we played I played really poor in September. And Albert really carried us literally to the playoffs at the end because he was just hitting homers. I think statistically he was the best hitter in baseball.
He was, yeah.
So what he was doing was unbelievable. And just watching his routine, his cage work. I never saw him roll over twice in a row. He would just do things that I would never see. He would hit off the machine super close, super fast, and just hit líneas everywhere. He would just do things. I'm like, I can't believe I'm watching this right now. And then go in the game. Just go in we'd be down 1. I'm on first. I'm like, Albert's hitting. I'm like, all right, we need a big hit here. Homer, take the lead. Everything was to take the lead or to tie the ball game. It was just unbelievable. And just an unbelievable person too. Just, how he carries himself. And I remember I offered him a bottle of wine just to congratulate him. He's like, nah, man, I don't drink. I've never had a drink before.
Ever.
And I was like, what? You're Albert Pujols and you play Major League Baseball, man?
Yeah.
Like, how are you not?
You ever been on a flight before?
Yeah. Like, a couple offers, you need a drink, But he's just a different dude, man. He's next level. And I get the chills thinking about him and how great he was to me and how great he's been to me. And he's awesome.
Yeah, that was I'm dead serious. Like there's going to be a movie made about that. It was just if you had told someone before the year that like, hey, this is how it's going to play out, no one would have believed it. I want to ask you about playing here in Boston because I feel like you see the ball well here. And what is it about? Is it like, because again, going back to like the sports psychology aspect of things, do you feel kind of like a rush of energy when you come to a ballpark where it's like, man, like Babe Ruth played here? And like, do you feel that as a Major League Baseball player when you step in the box, and do you take from that?
Yeah, just like I said, we stay in the hotel close to the ballpark, and walking here, just the energy before the game is the best, and seeing all the people, everybody out the bars already getting ready for the game with their jerseys on, and it's a pretty cool environment. It's a young environment too. It's not older people. It's mostly young people just excited about baseball. So that gets me fired up here. And then obviously, just when I come to this ballpark, I think about Jason Varitek, A-Rod. I think about Derek Jeter. I think about those big games. The fights, the rivalry, Manny Ramirez. So it's just cool to step on the same field as those guys. And obviously, I like seeing the ball. I like knowing that the fence is only 310 to left, and I like to pull the ball. So it's a good feeling that I don't have to try to do too much to hit a ball out. But like I said, I just think about all those guys, and like you said, Babe Ruth, and just I just think about that rivalry, just watching it and just being here.
Yeah, because I remember that like the first time that we ever interviewed you was in spring training of 2019, and we talked about the rivalry, and like you mentioned like the 03-04 part of it. Like when you were growing up, was there anyone, because I can't see it, was there anyone that you modeled your swing after And was it anyone like in that equation there?
I mean, A-Rod was something I always try to watch.
I could see a little bit of that.
Swing.
Yeah.
Manny Ramirez, but he's just so elite that I couldn't do that. But
like if you looked at a video of your swing right now, could you see kind of like we break it down like genetically, like oh, there's a piece of that in there and there's a piece of that in there.
I mean, they were so good, man. I don't think I could do that. Matt Holliday's the one guy I used to try to mimic my swing after. Matt Holliday.
I could see that
I liked
too.
him a lot, and the way he stayed through the baseball. But Manny Ramirez is just one of the greatest hitters of all time, righties, and I couldn't do that, what he did, but I just loved watching him play, and like I said, I mean, those guys were just so elite. Those teams were elite, you know what I mean? There's just such good star players on both sides. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, a lot of people say I have a very similar swing to Manny Ramirez. A lot of people would say that.
That's the best.
One last thing. The rule changes. What have you noticed playing? Like what have been the biggest differences for you as a player, either offensively or defensively?
Well, from a defensive standpoint, it's great to not be on your feet for so long.
Yeah.
I think from a health standpoint, I think it's going to help us as the year goes on that we're not going to be like as tired getting off our feet. From a hitter standpoint, I really don't like it. I don't like, swinging at a foul ball, taking a deep breath, and then I look, it's like 12 seconds. I'm like, oh no, I got to get in the box. I don't like that part of it. I don't like the part where I get the 2 strikes and I got to like still get in the box quickly. Sometimes I like to think, like slow my brain down, slow things down. And I think with the clock, it kind of speeds you up more than I would like personally. But I'm starting to get used to it. I'm starting to get better at it. In the spring training, I didn't get a lot of bats with it because the WBC, they didn't have those rules.
Yeah.
So I'm a little late to it, but I'm not a fan of in the box, to be quite honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else I'm fine with. But
like you have to be like engaged with the pitcher by 8 seconds.
Yeah, I just think, I don't want to have to be worried about the clock when I'm walking up there. When I'm facing Chris Sale and he's throwing 95 to 98, I'm just trying to like slow that down as much as possible, and I don't want to rush to get in the box.
Okay. One last thing before we let you go. You guys spent a lot of time on flights and hotels. Give me a movie recommendation, something that you've watched recently that I need to check out.
Wow. Movie.
Yeah.
I haven't been on movies. I've been on shows.
Okay, give me a show.
I'm rewatching Band of Brothers.
Okay, that's a great one.
Great one.
Yep.
I'm watching House of Dragons.
What's that?
It's like Game of Thrones.
I didn't do Game of Thrones.
And then I kind of rewatched, I did Entourage again.
Again?
Yeah.
I have those all on DVD.
Ari Gold is the best.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, that's the greatest character of
all right,
time.
Band of Brothers is going to be a solid rewatch. I'm going to have to pick that out for the offseason.
That's good.
All right, Nolan Arenado, St. Louis Cardinals, thank you so much.
No, I appreciate you, man. Thank you.